I want to talk about the 5 top talking points. We'll call it the Newt Gingrich, the Fox News talking points on why this is so bad. So the first one, and this one's hilarious. I'm sure you've heard this one. Republicans are always infighting. Democrats always get along. We're always doing this to each other. I love that one. They hear that one all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so just this morning. So first of all, that's so bullshit. Democrats infight too. People think it's always Republicans that publicly infight. First of all, when it's U.S. Congress, wouldn't you rather the infighting happens on the floor of Congress than in a private closed door meeting, right? Because we're always told, well, that was the decision of the conference. It's like, are we against that? It's not transparent.
Yeah.
So the infighting should be on the House floor. Guess what the Democrats do? They actually are the behind the closed door kind of people. So is the establishment, but the Democrats are really good at that. So that's bullshit. But they don't say only Republicans infight. Still, how do you say it with a straight face?
And also, there's a lot of patriots trying to take the Republican Party back from the rhinos. So infighting is a good thing because it means that there is a fight happening to retake the GOP from these rhinos, and that's a good thing in my mind. I don't see infighting as a bad thing. And you're right that the Democrats do it just as much, but they keep theirs a lot more quiet. They do it behind the scenes, and they're not transparent. A lot of these rhinos aren't transparent because you're right. They go to these caucus meetings. They do it all behind closed doors. We, the people, never get to know anything about it, and these Democrats all just spout out whatever talking points that were given. They pretend like they don't think for themselves. They go into these caucus meetings. That's where all the real decisions are made.
Okay, well, says, we infight, but we're in a cult. I thought that wasn't allowed in a cult. That's a great point. Oh, they're just a bunch of cultists, separatists, occultists. Wait a second. You're not supposed to argue, right?
Yeah, that is a good point.
That's a really good point. I mean, really, when you tackle these Republican establishment talking points, they're really easy to dismantle. But on just the surface, they sound good. They're really well crafted. All right, so just this morning, okay? Like, we don't even have to go long term to figure out where the Democrats are infighting. It happened this morning right there to all of us in Minnesota on line 15F, F15. Dawson, pull up this tweet. This is from the former majority leader in the Democrat Party here in Minnesota, Ryan Winkler, and he's opining on just a failed Hennepin County prosecutor. My God, Mary Moriarty, is that how you say her name? Moriarty. He writes,
Winkler ran against Moriarty.
Right. Intervenes to save a child molester from prison over the objection of her own professional prosecutor. This Hennepin County attorney is making all of our children less safe. She shouldn't even serve a full term. That sounds pretty harsh for one Democrat to say to another Democrat. And we're not talking about some obscure Democrat. We're talking about the former House Majority Leader Ryan Winkler going after the Hennepin County attorney. Like, of all the highest, other than the Attorney General in Minnesota, the highest attorney prosecutor you could possibly pursue politically, it's the Hennepin County. It's the biggest county by numbers, but right, not by land, obviously.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's infighting. I mean, we don't have to look that far.
And
Dean
Moriarty
Phillips
was also same thing with Keith Ellison. They had some infighting there.
There
too,
you go.
Keith
Ellison infighting with her, but Dean Phillips, he's literally saying we don't need Joe Biden as president. Right? You got a lot of people getting in line. Tim Walz, Amy Klobuchar, all them. But Dean Phillips literally is like, hey, we shouldn't do that. So guess what? This is the other news we learned today. Dean Phillips has probably got a primary challenger. Did you see that? Where was that story? I'm not going to open that up. But there's Dean Phillips potentially has got a primary challenger coming. Okay? So there you go. 2 in one day. It's only the Republicans infighting. Bullshit. Not true at all. Okay? And maybe it sounds louder because you're on that side. You're more sensitive to it. And maybe it's because Republicans infight a little bit more publicly, but that's a good thing because it means it's more transparent. Aren't you sick of being left in the dark? Okay, number 2. Oh, man, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one. We need to be united. We got to unify as Republicans. That's hilarious. Okay, can you grant me that there's 2 ends of the spectrum in the Republican Party? You got the Willard Romneys over here. Mitt Romney, they call him. Willard Romney's real name. And you got, let's just call it the Matt Gaetz side, okay? There's 2 opposite ends. And Willard Romney is going to say, I'm really a Democrat, but I'm a Republican because I run in Utah, right? So I'm going to advocate for more government. I'm going to advocate for endless Ukrainian spending, right? And you got the Matt Gaetz over here going, we got to stop doing that. We got to not fund Ukraine. We got to balance our budget, right? So how do you unify this thing? Well, guess what? When the Republican establishment says unity, they are never talking about unity over here. They're always talking about the Willard Romney side. It's always how it works. So you want to unite? Sure, let's unite, but it's going to be over here on conservative values, because in the end of the day, if you don't have principles you're standing on, what the hell is this all about? So yes, let's unite on the principles. And the whole speaker battle was because somebody didn't live up to those principles, him being Kevin McCarthy.
And so you're right. I mean, that's how they want to unify. Of course, they want our votes. they want to drag us along. They want to win elections. There's no doubt about it. Rhinos definitely want to win elections. They want power. They want they want that kind of control. But they want us to go along with it. Like a guy like Tom Emmer, they want us to come to, the Tom Emmer way of thinking about things. Otherwise, we're useless to them, but they want our votes. They never want to move towards our direction. And, I'm all for unity if it means that they're coming towards us. I'm not going towards them.
You hit on the most important point. You guys have power at home because they need our votes. Right? Yeah. So there you go.
That's the power.
That's the power in the end.
That's why, I think nobody should just, vote red no matter who. Nobody should just vote red until we're dead. There's a major problem with that, because unless you're willing to exert your power to withhold your vote, like Matt Gaetz did on Kevin McCarthy, you have to be willing to withhold your vote in order for them to come to you. So the only way that we'll ever get these rhinos to try to come our way is if we tell them we won't vote for them unless they come our way.
And what other votes they need? They need those 8 Republicans in order to become Speaker of the House.
Right.
Which leads us to the next one. This talking point's interesting. You don't have a guy, Matt Gaetz. Who's your guy? Who's your replacement? That's what all the media is asking. Who's your replacement? You don't have someone that can get 218 votes. I laugh. It's like, McCarthy doesn't have 218 votes. What's your point? It's like, why do you just bake in the cake that McCarthy has 218 votes? He clearly doesn't. He's not the Speaker of the House anymore.
Yeah.
So now you got to struggle and go find the next leader. And what's really interesting about Washington, D.C. is politics comes and goes real quick. And it's really interesting when you see like the Tim Pelini's running in 2018 and they don't realize the shift in politics, right? So they're running an election from like a decade ago. Politics is so quick sometimes, like a day, things get old. And within 24 hours after McCarthy loses the gavel, you got Jim Jordan entering the race, and you got Steve Scalise entering the race. So let's pull up this NBC News on line F17. Yep. These are the people that Jesse put in there that are running to be the successor.
Yeah, so these are a list of potential people and some people who have already announced. So, yeah, as you said, Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan are both already announced in this thing. They also list out Tom Emmer. But from what I'm seeing about Tom Emmer, it sounds like Tom Emmer is lining up behind Steve Scalise, and Tom Emmer is going to be running for majority leader of the caucus. That's also going to be an interesting battle, because as of now, it sounds like it's going to be Tom Emmer versus Elise Stefanik. Maybe there's going to be another person who gets involved in that race as well, but the majority leader is also up for grabs.
And that's going to be a simple majority in the Republican caucus too, right?
Right, yep. And then, unless they decide, yeah, exactly. It goes on within the caucus.
So we don't see that vote. It happens in the conference, not caucus, conference, and the federal. They call them caucuses in the state of Minnesota. So
and go ahead and keep scrolling down there, Dawson. Yep, so that lists out a couple of other people there, too. So you can see the Financial Services Chair, Patrick McHenry, McHenry, he looks a little too much like David Hand for me to trust him. But I'll tell you, he did the right thing on day one by telling Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer to pack the hell up and get out of the office, because we should have never had, Pelosi and Steny Hoyer getting these hideaway offices because of Kevin McCarthy. I can't believe that we didn't find out about this until Kevin McCarthy was gone. But yeah, Kevin McCarthy allowed Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer to keep their offices, to get these secret hideaway ones that never should have been in their hands. And Pelosi lied to McCarthy. McCarthy said in his press conference after he was ousted, he gave a press conference where he said that if Nancy Pelosi was talking to him, they were discussing problems. He said they want the motion to vacate. Nancy told him, if they ever bring that up, I'll have your back. We'll make sure you're taken care of. Well, Nancy Pelosi wasn't there for Dianne Feinstein's funeral. She was in California, so she's got a tiny out, but really, we all know Pelosi could have whipped those votes. She could have put them back in. But there's all kinds of other people.
I don't know. I don't know if my assessment's the same as you on that one.
You think Pelosi can't whip votes?
I don't know.
She's got more power than
That's a tough one to
even
ask Democrats. Vote for, well, I guess they could have voted president.
I've heard some leftists say that if the squad was legitimately trying to hold the Democratic Party accountable, they could have bartered their votes with Kevin McCarthy in order to get a Medicare for all floor vote.
Yeah,
because that's what a lot of the progressives want. They want to see who's who on that issue, which it would be interesting, and I'm sure Kevin McCarthy maybe even would have done it.
Okay,
just because it's going to expose some of the Democrats.
To wrap up this point, you don't have a guy. You need someone with 218 votes. It takes less than 24 hours. Names are already popping up.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump's being offered up.
Right. Yeah, so also Kevin Hearn. Yeah, Kevin
Hearn would be good too, right?
And, Kevin Hearn is telling people that he's interested in running. It sounds like he's going to run. But Byron Donalds is also in the mix. Some people are mentioning him. Rhino Dusty Johnson, who's in the Main Street Caucus, which is basically the Uniparty. Jody Arrington, Mike Johnson, Tom Cole, Garrett Graves, and let's see, Don Bacon and Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin is one of the people who's not even in Congress, but he's apparently being floated as a potential candidate for Speaker. I think he would be an interesting choice. Out of the options between Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, and Kevin Hearn, I'd be pretty open-minded to Kevin Hearn and Jim Jordan as long as the same terms apply. But there's one more candidate in the race that's even better than all of them. That's President Donald J. Trump.
Let's circle back to Trump after the segment here, because that's a loaded one.
Yeah,
that's a very loaded one.
Right.
Just the people that hated Matt Gaetz' move, but the conservatives. I think that was it. No, I guess Brad was saying something different. Mm-hmm. But the conservatives that don't see this for what it's worth, that maybe don't like what Matt Gaetz did, just think about this.
Mm-hmm.
If Jim Jordan becomes next speaker, you probably really like Jim Jordan. I don't know how much of that's deserved, to be honest with you. I think he's kind of like a hero because of the hearings. Has he really been that much of a fighter in Congress? I don't know. But I think most conservatives have a positive opinion of Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
So Matt Gaetz might literally be what gave us Speaker Jim Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Would he not go down then as maybe a good move, like a hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. You don't have a guy.
Jim Jordan was, at odds with Kevin McCarthy towards the beginning of the leadership because Jim Jordan was running against him. Jim Jordan was trying to do his own thing. Kevin McCarthy was smart enough to try to realize he had to have Jim Jordan on his side.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he was doing. Maybe we could use the word co-opting, but I would think it's more just becoming
Jim Jordan's
his friend.
Playing the long game.
Yeah, I think so too.
I got it. So anyhow, those are the three talking points. Only Republicans in fight. We need to be unified. You don't have a guy. They need someone with 218 votes. Here's number 4 talking point. Now is not the time. We are only 13 months away from the most important election of our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
That is like one of the best political excuses.
Now is never the time for them.
That is the dumbest thing ever. To think that this is going to at all weigh into people's decisions come election time is the dumbest thing I've literally ever heard. Guys, I left the studio. I'm all happy. I'm like, I can't believe this went down. I'm so happy this went down. I get outside of the studio, and I go down the street, and I realize no one knows. No one cares. You guys do. You pay attention to our show. The political ends. Yeah, Dawson, if you weren't running the dials, you wouldn't know. No one cares about this. You know what? If no one cares about the day it happens, and it's a historic vote, it's never happened before, they're certainly not going to remember us 13 months down the road. They're certainly not going to vote for this when they're seeing record inflation, precipice of World War III, you name the big issue, border crossings. This is not going to affect the election in 13 months. That is the dumbest talking point. Don't ever fall for that. And then number 5, this is a sad day for America. Democrats are laughing, and they act like it's a big win for Democrats. It's not a big win for Democrats. Same point. It's a one-day basically down. Oh, look how chaotic the Republicans are. Democrats knew their talking points. They go, well, we got to hope the Republicans aren't beholden to these MAGA extremists, meaning Matt Gaetz is a MAGA extremist who just toppled the speaker. That's their talking point, right? This isn't a big win for the Democrats. In fact, using that talking point, it just shows why McCarthy needed to go, right? That would have been the argument for them to help out McCarthy because they might fear there's a worse or more conservative speaker.
Right, exactly. And, it also showed to me that the Democrats don't think for themselves. They all voted in unison. And also, let's think about what the speaker election was like before. All 15 rounds, every single Democrat lined up and voted Hakeem Jeffries every single time. It shows that they're not real players. It shows that they're all going to be unified and force a Democrat agenda no matter what. They're almost all extremists. Almost every single one of them falls in line on every important bill, on every single thing that would be either America first. They're against it. That's how a lot of these Democrats are. They don't think for themselves. And this, like I said with the squad, they could have had a real opportunity to play some games in that moment. They could have said, let's force a Medicare for all vote. But they're not serious about holding the Democrat Party accountable. It's very obvious that that's what AOC, Ilhan, and Cori Bush and some of these others said that they were going to do when they got in there. But what are they really? They're just the progressive lapdogs for the Democratic Party. So the Democrats, they still own them. They're still on the leash. And they're just not going to play this game in any kind of real way. The Democrats only did this. They all voted in unison with Matt Gaetz and the other conservatives. They only did that because they thought, okay, this is good for our message. We can say, look, the Republicans are in disarray. But like we said, the unifying, the infighting, that's all a good thing in our mind because we see it as our one opportunity to try to take this country back. We get, not even a branch of government. We have one half of one branch. So we need to take full advantage of it and put everything we can into the House.
I want to add a sixth talking point because I've heard this one. This one's crazy. It's you were wrong when you were voting with all Democrats. I actually literally got someone that emailed me that.
Yeah.
You know they're wrong because they voted with all the Democrats. And that's the talking point I've heard. I think McCarthy. Apparently 8 Republicans can vote with all the Democrats to split. And I'm just thinking, yeah, voting with all the Democrats is bad. Like when all the Republicans that voted with all the Democrats for the continuing resolution McCarthy did to fund their government for another 45 days, right? That's bad too.
Yep.
Because you guys vote with the Democrats
much worse.
all the time. Did you know that I don't think there was a single Democrat that voted agated the continuing resolution
there was
in the
one.
Senate?
Maybe not in the Senate.
It was 88 votes in the Senate. I think there's one in the House.
Yeah, and the only reason the one in the House voted no was because he said it didn't fund Ukraine.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So it wasn't even like a good principled vote for anything. It was basically just, it's not funding the military-industrial complex. It's not trying to provoke a war with Russia, World War III. So, even the one Democrat who voted the correct way, it was for all the wrong reasons.
All right, so let's talk about Trump, and then before we sign off, I want to just give an update in the Maddie Kingsbury case. Adam Fravel charged with first-degree murder. Give a perspective on that. So Trump I'm not going to that story yet. Trump being nominated, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, that's my guy. I'm only going to vote for him.
That's right.
I'm a Donald J. Trump, okay?
That's what she's saying. She's saying that the only person who has her vote right now for Speaker of the House is Donald J. Trump. And there's another representative, Troy Niels. And let's see, he's out of Texas. He's also saying, he's a former police officer. He's also saying that Trump is his guy. So we got at least 2 representatives right now who, this is going to be another few rounds of voting at least.
Okay, well, hold on.
This is going to go on for a little while, I hope.
We don't know because maybe the conference does actually come unified on something, right? Jim Jordan might be the unifying candidate.
Maybe.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so Trump's on the outside right now. So if he becomes speaker, and even if it's temporary, because I think he's still going to run for president, right? He's running for president. He's leading as president. So he doesn't want to just be speaker. So maybe he would just do it temporarily. But he's now on the inside. So he's on the outside. He can blame everything on the politicians in D.C. But if he becomes Speaker of the House, now he is actually part of the problem that he's doing. Now, I guess he could still say we only have the House and it's the Joe Biden administration, and that's how he's positioning himself. So I do see that. But I got this question for you. They say McCarthy couldn't get 218 votes. Can Donald Trump get 218 votes?
Yeah, I mean,
is there 6 Republicans, some rhinos that would not do it?
Oh yeah, I mean, watch Thomas Massey do it. Watch Chip Roy and some of these others, and then there's the absolute complete rhinos like Mike Simpson and all these others that are never ever going to vote for Trump. They'd rather vote for Hakeem Jeffries than Donald Trump for Speaker of the House. So this is just going to be a good test. I don't think Trump has any chance of being the speaker, but it's a good test to basically see who's really going to stand with Trump, because it was only Gaetz last time. Gaetz also nominated Trump in the last speaker race, but this time, with no Kevin, that means Marjorie Taylor Greene's got her vote open. And I think we're going to see a few of these people who.
But I think all that gets. See, I don't think we get to see it. I think all that gets done behind the scenes in the conference, and they're going to come out of that conference probably unified behind Scalise or Jordan. I would think it's one of those two people. But yeah, Carla Nelson, Trump would use the power of the purse to protect our border, which apparently Biden's already funding.
Yeah, and this is going to be tough too because the majority of the members of the conference, of the Republican conference in the U.S. House, are rhinos. I'm looking at let's see what this was, 2019. When Jim Jordan challenged Kevin McCarthy to be the minority leader, Kevin McCarthy won 159 to 43. So there were only 43 people within the Republican House that were willing to choose Jim Jordan back then over Kevin McCarthy. But things are a little bit more different. I think the House is more conservative than it was before, and I think that. Since it's more conservative, there's going to be more people willing to vote for Jim Jordan. And now the choice is going to be Steve Scalise, who, he has cancer. I'm not sure why he is choosing to run at this moment. It sounds like he's got enough to deal with. He's the majority leader on top of it. But also, let's see, when Andy Biggs ran against Kevin McCarthy in January, before the floor votes even took place, McCarthy won 188 to 31. So, this is going to be one of those things that I think that, they're probably going to try to consolidate around Steve Scalise. Scalise is going to be the establishment choice in this race. If they can do that or not is going to be up to see. Matt Gaetz is even open to Steve Scalise, but if we don't get the same terms of agreement as we had with Kevin McCarthy, and if they're not actually going to be followed through, then we shouldn't choose Scalise. But if I had to just put a prediction out there right now, I do think that Scalise is the one who the establishment is ready to rally behind.
Yeah, but would they be fine with Jim Jordan? That's the big question.
I would hope so. And, they may be more willing to after everything that Jim Jordan has done to try to protect McCarthy. And, with the majority leader, between Emmer and Stefanik, that's also going to be interesting. And, if Emmer ends up becoming the majority leader, or even if he doesn't, that would open up the majority whip position. And Guy Reschenthaler of Pennsylvania, he's a U.S. representative out of Pennsylvania. He endorsed Trump in 2024. And I still got to do more research and get more info on this guy, but he's announced that he is willing to run for majority whip. So that would be an upgrade over Emmer. There's no doubt about that.